Hi, it's Lonnie with Crafty Travel, and this is my husband Ernie. And today we're going to show you how to change the
propane regulator.
Tell the folks what has happened to our propane regulator.
While we were on our trip, even before we left on our trip, I discovered a little bit of oil in the lines of the propane system. So I took off all the fittings and ends, hooked up a pressure point, and blew it all out.
And the reason we found that out is because in the mornings when it was cold, or we were like above, 4,500 feet, in the morning we'd go to turn the stove on to make coffee and it wouldn't light. So Ernie would go around to the, what is that called? The propane...
It's a tap off for the external propane grill.
Right. And you would use some little tool and push it in and express some propane out of it.
Relieve the high pressure.
So that's why he thought that the propane regulator wasn't working correctly.
Yeah, the regulator is supposed to bring your pressure down to the point where everything operates with a very minimal pressure. If there's too much pressure, it won't function.
And you don't get coffee. So, what's the next step?
Well, tools I've laid out are very simple. A couple of wrenches,
Hold them up.
the new regulator. This is for testing afterwards. You use the old soap bubble test, which is tried and true to know if you have any leaks. And a special Teflon tape, or there's a special pipe dope that you use only on propane lines. So make sure you get yellow and use it if you're replacing any of your propane or gas lines rather than white. It's not rated for it. Use the yellow. So the first thing we got to do is remove the old propane regulator. I've already taken off to the tanks, and then now we're just going to remove it.
Okay.
So now, as a matter of just removing the old regulator, I have to get down under here. It's on a long stem. Remove this secondary nut that holds it in vertical. Take the line, take the wrench. In this case, it happens to be a 11/16 for mine, but you would test yours. Once it's loose, it's just a matter of turning it off. There's no sense in keeping anything here because once you get the two-stage regulator, this switches back and forth between the two tanks. So everything, unless you want to keep maybe the pigtails, is not salvageable.
How do you get rid of that?
This is just throw it out in the trash. Or you can take it to your local dump and see if they'll take it in with the metal. The end of your line is to get some of that yellow tape and give it a couple of good wraps. Nice and tight, so that it forms a really good seal. New regulator goes on. Tighten it up wrist tight. You don't want to over torque these joints because they're made of brass. hit a dead point where it doesn't go any further. Now I've added a little extra protection to my propane line because it does go through a metal slot, and the rubbing of the vibration could cause a leak. I put the secondary nut back on, and this will be adjustable based on the height of my propane tanks. So I'll run it down a little bit just to make sure I've got plenty of slack. Now I can reconnect my propane tanks. Position your tank so that there's no sharp bends in your lines. And screw on the pigtails. I'll make final adjustments on the height of this when I put on my lock system. But first, I'm going to turn on both tanks. Make sure there's no... So I flipped the switch on the back here. With the arrow pointing towards this tank. I know it has propane in it. So I'm going to dribble a little bit of soap on the joints. Make sure there's no bubbles coming up. Which I don't see any. So we're probably good and tight. So the real acid test is to go inside and
There it goes. There, it worked.
So now we know we have a good running line. The flame is nice and blue. Very little yellow residual, so the pressure is correct. And that's changing over your regulator.
Okay, so I hope this video helped you out. If you have to ever change your regulator, your propane regulator. Anything else you want to say?
Well, if you don't feel confident in doing it, take it to your local dealer. They'll charge you a few bucks, but then it's guaranteed by them for the labor and parts if you buy them through them.
And Ernie did a lot of research on how to do this and watched videos, so we suggest you do the same.
YouTube is your best source.
That's right. So stay crafty when changing out your propane regulator. Give us a thumbs up, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.